Hey friends, welcome back to the channel. My name is Parul Bhargava. I'm a technologist based out of the Pacific Northwest in the United States. On this channel, we explore strategies and tools on how to deliver your best work either when you work for yourself or work for others. Today we'll be tackling how to give and receive feedback. Let's go ahead and jump right into it. Feedback tends to have a negative connotation with it, and it's unfortunate. It's really intended to be neither positive nor negative. It's simply intended to be a neutral statement. We're going to go ahead and start off with talking about receiving feedback. This one's a hard one. This is where you'll have to likely be calm and be ready to hear whatever the person is going to be saying to you. Let's be honest. The vast majority of people are really bad at giving feedback. This puts the onus or the responsibility on you to hear the message and dismiss how poorly it was delivered to you. I have an experience which I went through where my boss at the time had said, hey, my peer has this feedback they want to give to you. I went and talked to Dave, and Dave said to me, hey, Parul, I have voted you off the island already. When you hear that message, especially if you've watched any sort of reality TV in the past, in the television show Survivor, you know that idiom or that statement actually comes from an idea that somebody has actually said, hey, I want you nowhere close to me or anywhere close to working with you from this point forward. So I asked the gentleman, hey, are you aware that the idiom, I voted you off the island, comes from the television show Survivor? It took a lot of self-control, took a lot of effort on my part in order to be able to come across in a way that was still calm and still willing to listen to whatever he had to say. Unfortunately, he said, yes, I know exactly where it comes from. At that point, I knew that conversation was done. However, it was still up to me to be able to remember that I needed to be able to be calm enough and be able to listen to what they had to say. I still asked him, what activities or what behaviors could I be doing differently to change your opinion? Now, it's up to each of us individually to figure out how much we're willing to invest in order to be able to find that information. But the key piece of this is knowing that when you're receiving feedback, the person that's giving it to you may not be in a really good state or be providing it to you in a way that actually shows a positive intent or willingness to help you grow. So just be ready for that. When you give feedback, since we already know that people are really abysmal at it, they're really bad at it, you're going to have to be better than that. You're going to have to be able to provide people an easy way for people to be able to hear what you're saying. Here's a model that has worked in my experience, where we ask for permission, then we describe the behavior, then we describe what the impact is, and then we can close out that statement from there. And that could be either appreciation, it could be a request, it could be anything. You'll probably immediately are asking, well, why do I need to ask for permission? You know what? Everyone has those days. Everyone has those days where they are not ready to be able to hear anything. That one extra thing is just that one step too far. There's just one too many things. And this is where, in order to be able to make sure the person's actually able to hear you, you need to be willing to ask them, are you ready to hear some feedback? Because if they say no, you also have to be ready to accept that because they may not be in a place to be able to hear it. And that might be because something's not going right at home. Maybe they had a really bad morning. Maybe they don't have enough caffeine. It could be any number of things, but start off with just asking. Next, what you're going to do is describe a behavior. This is not a person's attitude. This is not a person's personality. This is about specific behavior. You have to be very specific and you have to be objective. Describe an act that the person did. This will help the person that is receiving that feedback to know exactly what you're talking about, because if you describe something in general terms or in abstracts, there's a high probability that a person will not misunderstand what you're asking them to do or asking them to change or asking them to do more of. And then you need to be able to describe the impact. What is, you did this behavior, what happened? What changed? What is the thing that is the outcome of that behavior that causes you to have to say something about it? It could be positive, it could be negative. So what you need to be able to do is describe those impacts as specific as you can be about those impacts to help that person understand about what is actually happening when they do that. The better off they will be able to understand and be able to then decide what are they going to do. Keep in mind, it is up to them to decide if they're going to change anything. So this is where it's up to them to figure out whether or not they're going to change it. Then you got closing. You can either ask them to make a change, you can give them encouragement, you can give them both. This will give the person the opportunity to make a decision to change something or not to change something. If you tell somebody to do something, nobody likes that. Nobody likes to be told what to do. Nobody likes to being told, go do this. No one likes that experience. It's different if you say, hey, could I ask you to do this? then the person can opt into making that change for themselves. And then it becomes a decision for them, and they become invested in wanting to do that in the future as well. Now, whether it sticks or not, that's a different story, but at least it's a way for you to be able to ensure that you're, again, just like permission, you're also asking them to make a change. Let's give a couple of quick examples. Let's just, for a hypothetical Joe. Do you have a moment for me to give you some feedback about yesterday's meeting? Joe can either say yes or no. Let's say Joe says yes. When you send out notes on time to the team, the details in notes are very helpful and allows everyone else to focus closely on the content. I appreciate you taking the time and effort to do that. Now, often when people see feedback, they often cringe, and that's part of the thing, is that feedback needs to be normalized to be neutral again. Unfortunately, people, managers, have used the word feedback to only mean something negative. Here's an example of a negative one. Hey Mark, got a sec for some feedback on the status report. When you send out the status report, and Mark says yes. When you send out the status report and exclude other participants from contributing, the other participants are surprised at what was written. What could be done differently next time? Now, I've not told him what to do. I've not told him what to change. I've described the impact of that. The people that he's working with are surprised. Now, he has a choice. He has a choice as to what to do. Do I include more people? Do I go ask them to review it? Then there's so many different options of ways to be able to solve this. But again, it gives Mark the opportunity to be able to change and be able to say, okay, what am I going to do differently? Now, this can go on and on several times. Mark could have said no and say, great, Mark, when you're ready, could you come back to me and let me know when you're ready for some feedback? Because I'd like to give it to you, but I also want to make sure that you're ready to hear it. So these are things that we can go back and forth. If a person doesn't make the change that you're expecting, let's say Mark does it again, sends out the notes, sends it out again, say, hey, Mark, when you sent out the status report and you excluded the participants again, the participants were again surprised, and now also I am. What could we do differently? Again, we could cycle through this over and over again, and we'll be able to try to get the corrective behavior that we're looking for. Or on the contrary example with Joe, saying, hey, you keep on sending these really, really great notes. How do we help? How do we teach others how to do that? How do we get so it's no longer something that's only for you to do? You did a fabulous job. I like to keep on doing that. Again, just reinforcing the behaviors of what you want, meaning, asking people to do the good things more times, is going to enable people to be able to do the work that you need them to do. And at the same time, also be able to make sure that folks that are exhibiting behaviors that aren't exactly the ones you want, how do you get them moving in the correct direction? And now we've gone through in this video, talked about what feedback is, about it being neither positive nor negative. We've talked about a quick model about how do you give feedback, and gone through some examples. If you found this information to be helpful and you find this content to be something that you could be able to use in the long term, we'd love to be able to hear you, but love to be able to hear some feedback from you as well. So if you found this content helpful, please go ahead and subscribe, hit a like, drop a comment, and love to hear from you.